Somehow I created another game. It is not something I had planned and the final outcome is simply the result of bad decision making. But let me explain. The mechanics are very simple. In this 2-player hot seat game, we have a dynamically generated map on which each player places a cannon. Each turn, the current player is allowed to either A. Move around the map's terrain blocks, or B. Shoot a cannonball which damages the target when hit. However, there's some quite unpredictable wind, which makes hitting objects more challenging. Moving or shooting will end the player's turn, and the first player to fully sink the other player wins. Hitting the other player 3 times also ends the game. It's a run-of-the-mill minigame, but if this sounds interesting to you, give it a try on the link below itch.io game page. Everything started with my goal of learning some 3D modeling with Blender. After finishing my first low-poly modeling course, I was trying to do a few things on my own, leading to the creation of different terrain blocks. While working on these blocks, I wondered about possible game ideas. As a result, I opened Unity to check out how the model import process works, and this is where things went sideways. Because seeing everything inside Unity made me immediately implement a spiral block generation algorithm, which by the way is still present in the final game. Having this dynamically generated board in front of me, I then thought that it would be fun to add a turn-based strategy mechanics. So I quickly modeled a cannon to represent the players and got started coding. Unfortunately for me, I did not think at all about game loop, balancing or what would be fun. I just added mechanics that I thought might be useful, including resource collection for resources required to move, shoot or repair. And after a while, I ended up with my first playable build, which was a boring and unbalanced mess. I should have stopped at this point, realizing that I was not really interested in creating a game. But since I had already spent time and effort, I did not want it to go to waste. And it does not help that I love all my creations, no matter how bad they are. Anyway, I continued because I somehow believed that this was mainly a balancing issue that could be fixed. I played around with changing the map generation, changing resource spawn rates, adding scavenging and so on. But every additional playtest only revealed new balancing issues as the underlying idea was simply undercooked. Slowly getting frustrated, I finally decided to go into a different direction. In previous builds, shooting always resulted in a guaranteed hit, which was changed so players would need to aim the cannon and hit the target manually. This added a skill component to the mix, which was thankfully way more fun compared to what I had before. However, it was no longer purely strategic and the resources still caused me headaches. I brainstormed about using them for building villages, where some number of villages placed on the map would win the game. I also thought about using resources to build towers to get into higher positions or to build protective walls. And I thought about adding even more resource types and terrain blocks, which is probably the worst idea of all. I started questioning myself why I was adding features to something I was not really invested in. Just because I had modeled some janky resource blocks, this did not mean that they had to be useful. After all, I was suddenly creating a game while my initial goal was to learn more about modeling. So the blocks got demoted to eye candy with the only job of restricting player movement and to serve as cover. And to make everything a bit more interesting, I simulated wind to make shooting slightly more challenging. To wrap this project up, I polished everything, added music and sound effects and created this devlog. All I wanted to do is get some more 3D modeling practice. It has now been over a month and I've spent most of my limited side project time on this at best average minigame without progressing any further on my Blender skills. In the end, it was yet another lesson in how important it is to think long and hard about scope, features, balancing and mechanics before starting to code. In fact, I'm challenging you to try to come up with a nicely balanced strategy game based on a couple of terrain and resource blocks. I swear, it is harder than you might think. But if you have an idea, let me know in the comments. By now, I feel the need to do a refresher on 3D modeling, which is probably what I do next. I hear Blender has great 3D animation capabilities. Please wish me luck to not get sidetracked again. That's it and I thank you for watching.